I am currently lounging around out the front of ANZ Stadium. As you can see from here, there we go, ANZ Stadium. I'm just lying on the front lawn. So we finished our session today on time, I guess. It feels like we've stayed back a lot longer, but we actually been here for most of the day. Sorry about this. I'll get the camera set up. A bit of grass. There we go. Okay, my face all right, pimples all right, good. Okay, so yeah, it's been another really good day. So this is day 3 of the KSL seminar. Tomorrow we have one more session and we have the exam. Fun. That means being finally get our certification for KSL shot cycle, and I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so if you haven't joined me recently, then the last few days I've been doing live feeds and live vlogs, I guess. Andy, what the hell? Shoot, sorry. Oi, get off. Yeah, so this is where I'll talk through some things I've learned so far. And hey, Finn, hey, yes, exams, fun. If you do this next year, Finn, you're doing an exam as well. There's nobody coming up here and not do the exam. But it's been absolutely amazing. Coach Lee is a fantastic person to work with, and it's been really valuable as an archer, but it's been incredibly validating as well. So it's been amazing to learn so much from Coach Lee. And I recognize, and he's made it very clear now, why he's picked me or invited me to come along. It's that it's the thing we really talked about, especially at the conclusion of this session, was how necessary it is for us to keep an open mind and be open to progress. And this is something which has plagued archery as a whole. It's our fixation on doing it the way we've always done it. And I'm guilty of this as well. A lot of my background and training, especially in modern archery, has been based on what's been done before. And what's been done before isn't necessarily the best method. And that's why things like what Kisik Lee does has been incredibly eye-opening, because it doesn't necessarily change the way we do archery, but it changes the way we think about doing archery, especially incorporating a lot more biomechanics and scientific or sports science into the equation. So that was really what it came down to, and it can be very hard when you've learnt one way your whole life, and then someone else does something different. And as we all know, change can be very hard to accept. But being able to learn directly from Coach Lee has, I felt, made me a better archer. Not just because I've learned techniques myself, but because I can see what people are doing now. We did a lot of analysis today. We covered a lot of Olympic matches, especially for Brady Ellison, because he is Coach Lee's main star, but also many others as well, Korean, American, and many others. And I guess even for an experienced archer, we watch these things, but we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. And it's why in the past I've said, don't watch pros and copy them. Understand their process. If you just copy the pros, then all you're doing is just replicating the physical form. You need to understand the mentality and the process behind it. So the first day we covered general shooting and coaching principles. The second day, that's yesterday, we covered, what did we cover yesterday? We covered the mentality side, the mindset, and today we covered the physical process. And the important thing to discuss is the necessary engagement of all these things. You can't have the physical process and not understand the mental process behind it. That's what I got out of today's session. So again, just revising my notes for the exam. Finn, pay attention, because this will be the exam next. Just kidding, you will have to know these things yourself. Oh dear, man. So I'll take your notes, guys, all right? So if you want these notes, Finn, they'll be an extra $100. Oh man, look at my diagram. Look at my feet diagram. Look at my very sexy feet. Demonetized right there. Let's have a look. Okay, I left off last time on the mentality side. So looking more at the physical side. So not going into way too much detail, but just trying to look through. I mean, some of these things many of us know already from good archery practice, good archery technique, or you might have seen or read the KSL method before. One of the big things he teaches is the barrel of the gun. I think many of us know about this already. Barrel of the gun is shoulder alignment. And the way he teaches it, I've seen it happen, but now that I've had the explanation of the mentality behind it, I understand when people do it. When I see Brady Ellison do it, I understand what he is doing to reach the position, posture, and the physical process that he follows. So I can't explain it right now. I don't have a bow right now. I'm kind of lying on the lawn. But shoulder alignment is king in this process. The barrel of the gun is what they call it in KSL or NTS. And that is absolutely king in a good shot process. It also really challenged the way we understood back tension. Now, the classical way we think of back tension, I mean, those who do push and pull will know this a lot more, is we think of back tension as squeezing the back muscles together. That's not necessarily the best way of doing things. It can work for most people, and don't get me wrong, if you're already shooting push-pull and you're getting high scores, don't get me to change all your things, because if it works and many people shoot very high scores with these techniques, then it works. Will it work all the time? That's what the question mark is. So what we kind of broke down today was examining how consistent someone can be using a process which is tried and true, but not necessarily the optimal methods. So back tension is one thing. You'll see a lot of my videos that my back tension is actually fairly poor, but having the right process, in this case the barrel of the gun, can really get your shoulders in line. If you're not sure what we're talking about, perhaps think about looking at some of the KSL resources online at the moment, which are on his website. But also might think about, again, especially if you're based in the US and you have an NTS coach, then getting them to explain or looking at how they do barrel of the gun is an incredibly useful thing to visualize. And that's really been a big game changer. But the basic thing is, it is shoulder alignment. That's the key here. Sorry, I'm gonna avoid the wind. All right. We talked about posture. Again, these are things that you probably know already. With good posture, you want to have the majority of the weight on the balls of your feet. So it should be about 60 to 70% on the balls of your feet. So if that's your foot, this is a hand obviously, and that's the balls of your feet, then you should be more weight should be on the balls of your feet rather than the heel. A lot of us, again, I'm guilty of it as anybody else, we tend to lean backwards in the shot. So we tend to put more weight on our heels, and this tends to create that hollow back. So our back forms that S shape that we naturally have, which loads the weight of the bow onto the wrong muscles. So avoiding the hollow back can be done by having correct weight distribution on the feet, as well as adopting an open stance. I think many of us already use an open stance, but that's something which many people should think about doing, because an open stance actually addresses many of the other problems people have in shoulder alignment, in posture, and so on. We talked about shoes. Having flat shoes or negative heeled shoes is the preferred. Having high heeled shoes may make it a bit easier to shoot with some, walk with some people, but for shooting it may not be desirable. Let's see, stance we just talked about before. We talked about every single step in the KSL shot cycle, which again you can find online, at least one of the versions that you can find online. There are more advanced versions of the KSL shot cycle. He's added a lot more depth to various things ever since. It includes things like breathing, blood pressure. Blood pressure is in his cycle now. Breathing, blood pressure, intensity, mentality, a lot of things which is updating, and his last one was like 3 days ago. So Brad an extra edition. So now the shot cycle is a lot more complicated, but the basic version you can find again on his website. So all the steps are there. Yes, by the way, super honest, skateboarding shoes are perfect. Flat soles are what you need. Most sport shoes, your runners, joggers, sneakers, whatever you call them, they have a slight heel. So there is a slight elevation on the heel. It doesn't mean you can't shoot well in them, but it does make it harder to get the right weight distribution, because you're more inclined to tilt too far forward or too far back, depending on what the heel design is. But having that flat sole is actually perfect. Good point there, honest. One thing I do want to mention, which everything I've learned in the shot process, I felt really attacked. Something I've done wrong before. And let's see, the set position, the process, at least for the set position, starts with the hook. I think most of us grip the bow first. It actually starts with the hook. You hook the string first, then you grip the bow. The mentality or the rationale is that if you can't hold the bow correctly if you haven't yet hooked the string. That makes sense. Just like we normally grab the bow and then we grab the string determines where to go. So hook first, string second. Big emphasis on visually checking that you've done it correctly. We don't just feel it, we look and see that we've done things correctly. We had a lot of discussion on finger tabs. We had a lot of discussion on finger tabs and good designs, suboptimal designs, the ones which allow you to place your fingers in the right place. Some tabs come with ledges which get in the way. They might provide support and rest, but it also prevents you from moving your fingers into the right position for your anchor points. There was some talk about that. We had a lot of talk about finger spaces. A lot of people who have the finger spaces on the finger tabs aren't using them right. You're meant to squeeze it. You're meant to clamp down on the finger tab so that your fingers are not only spaced away from the arrow nock, but they are also parallel. Okay, so a lot of people either split too far open like this. A lot of beginners do this to have a very wide grip. That's not the best grip. And some people, they don't squeeze the finger spacer. They actually go like they kind of bypass. They wrap the fingers all around like that, which kind of defeats the purpose of the finger spacer. So there's a lot of talk about how correctly squeezing the finger spacer on the tab is paramount. The Fairweather tab, I have one, Finn. I think next time you come over, I might let you try one. The thing to keep in mind the finger tab is that you need to get the right ring size. You can measure it. You can buy several rings. Because unlike other tabs, the Fairweather tab isn't attached by a ribbon. You need to buy the right ring so that it fits your finger correctly. I bought a couple. I bought one which is a bit too small for me, kind of cut blood circulation. The second one, the second one was really good. Sorry, the second one fit me perfectly. The best thing I like about the Fairweather tab is the leather. The kangaroo leather is very smooth. It's a tough leather. Very well designed. I really like the Fairweather tab. What I didn't like as much about it was the plastic ledge. So the palm plate, I tried this hand. The palm plate has a lip on the ledge. I don't like shooting with ledges. If you don't mind ledges, the tab is excellent. People shoot fine. And look, much respect to Simon Fairweather for designing it. It is a good winning design. When it comes to personal preference, because I don't like ledges or lips, I find that when I release, again I'm right-handed, but say I'm left-handed here, what I find is that when I release, the lip kind of catches onto my jaw here, and it scrapes it. I find it quite uncomfortable. But I've got a spare one in my case, so I'm actually thinking about changing my finger tab. One of the reasons was Coach Lee identified that the tab that I have is like it has the ledge which you don't need. So I'm either gonna remove it or change my tab completely. Who knows? Sorry, I got a question there. I can't remember the size I asked you. The ring would stretch. Okay. If it stretches, you can build it up. Just put tape or something. We do something with thumb rings. It's just Asiatic. All right. Where are we? Sorry, just waiting for the plane and traffic. I mean, yeah, love the tab. You just need to pick the right ring. And I haven't seen the ring stretch. I haven't used it enough to know that. So I've got a blank page. I don't know why I did this, but there's a blank page. Whoops. I'll draw a sketch of something. Maybe I should draw a portrait of Coach Lee. I might do it one day. Aaron, I had a question there. Sorry. Oh, Amir, hello. Thank you. You know, a lot of people. One of the things that's really blew my mind up was, like, basically everyone at the seminar watched me first. I mean, like Coach Lee used to give us the real talk, but so many people started watching me, and I guess that's a connection. Like, I think even like Coach Lee really wants to see more people talk about the sports science. Not, I mean, his method is like, you know, what he developed, but just talking about like this mindset, kind of changing the game a bit more, and I'm very open to sort of things. That's why I said before, I was quite happy to see a lot of people say hi. You know, I watch you, my kids watch you. That was really cool, and Finn watches me too. Hi, Finn. What did I say here? Just checking chat. Sorry, Aaron. So you got moccasins. What kind of equipment did you get? I'm not sure what you meant by that. Oh, so I talked to Amir, my bad, okay. Bullseye Galaxy Rico? The Galaxy Rico, okay, right? Thumb release and a really simple metal thumb release. Oh, okay, I know what I'm talking about now. Alright. Would you rather be a famous couch? Sorry, I think half of Sydney just heard me laugh there. A famous couch. That doesn't sit well with me. Gee, that's a really good question, to be honest. Be a famous coach like KSL, or be a good athlete, a famous archer like Brady. One or both. One or both. I mean, I'm a better teacher, so coaching suits me a bit more. But if I had to choose, I would pick neither. That defeats the purpose of the question. I know. Which would you rather be? No, I think that my answer to this question, would you rather be a coach like Kisik Lee or be a good athlete like Brady Ellison? While I'm in a position to do both, I'm in a unique position to do something else. Look, honestly, I'm not going to be the world's #1 archer. I'm not going to be the world #1 coach. What I am, and what I can be, is the #1 YouTube archer. That is the best person to go to on YouTube for anything archery. Maybe I've achieved that. I've got a long way to go for other things, but that I think is paramount. Because to be a good coach, you need to go through the process, have students, have archers learn through you. Would I want to coach people up to a high level? Certainly. I don't have people to coach. People want to learn from me, that's great too, but where I am right now, nobody really wants to be coached by me. Okay, that's fine. I don't mind. But, you know, coaching is a different game. You know, you got to be really passionate about that and really be selfless too. That's something which as a teacher, I'm inclined to do. But yeah, I don't think coaching professionally is for me. But I'd probably be more inclined to shoot as best as I can, especially with the knowledge I have now. We talked about bow grip. Oh, man, my bow grip is terrible. Whoa. This one I do want to talk about in a bit more detail because again, I don't have a bow to explain. But what I've been doing, I think people should probably know this. But for those who don't know this, I'll explain gone wrong on my side. As I've been shooting, I think Finn noticed this too when you were shooting last time at Southern Cross. I have a tendency to have a very high grip, and I tend to thrust the hand forward. So when I release and follow through, the hand moves forward. The correct grip, and this isn't just Kisik Lee, but most grips you're meant to do, it's meant to be slightly higher. I get my knuckles correct, but you're meant to pull the knuckles back. So looking from this angle, hopefully, all right, you're meant to pull the knuckles back. So you have most of the pressure on that part, that muscular part there, all right? So I've got a very weak web over here, but this part has actually been built up. So you can see years of archery have padded out my thumb joint here. That's where it's meant to be. Ugh. So I've been doing this a lot and just choking the bow through here. Should have been much closer to this area down here. So my hand position, I should have gone for a lower grip. I went for a high grip most of the time, and that creates a lot of incorrect follow through, incorrect tension. But that one, so having the knuckles pulled back, having that pressure point there, and especially later when we talked about the release and the follow through, I also learned to keep the tricep tense, and then when you follow through, it comes through that way. You point back towards you, and you see this is what people see a lot of the Korean archers do. It's a very wild swing. It's actually not cosmetic. There's a reason for that. But the reason why they do that is you're achieving the pressure point, follow through, and you feel tension in your forearm. All right, you can't snap that without tension in the forearm over here. So what I was doing, and you've seen my videos right recently, I tend to flop this arm outwards and my arm would float to the left or something like that. Whereas with this method, I can finally understand how people get the correct follow through. Pull knuckles back, push the thumb pad forward, tense the thumb. That tense the thumb allows you to connect to the muscle in your tricep over here. So tense thumb allows you to tense this, keep a stable arm, and then the follow through snaps down, points towards yourself, and you'll see that tension in the forearm when I do that. So full draw and follow through. That's what I really learned. That's something which I never learned as an archer. Never too late to learn, by the way. I learned that, and that's been a game changer. So that was bow grip. We talked about the setup position, and the setup is lifting it like this, raising a bow, set, and then set up, which where you don't full draw, but you begin to brace. Coach Lee described it as the horse stance. For those who do martial arts, the horse stance is something you probably know. It's probably something you love and hate. The horse stance is when you are braced and you're prepared for your next action. So yeah, the setup of the horse stance, you ready the barrel of the gun, so your shoulders are aligned, and you start to you get ready to draw. You don't draw, but you get ready to draw using your core muscles. And I talk about land 2, which is the muscle group in this part of the arm. So rather than using your hands to draw, you use this part, this entire part here, shoulder and arm, and that comes back together. Something you can probably try right now, because most people draw with their hands. Drawing with your entire muscle group here, it's a big game changer. What we did, we had an experiment where we would pull against somebody else using only our hand, and if we did that, it was a very weak draw. But by using the entire muscle group over here, we could achieve basically a force multiplier, much more power in that draw when we engage that. We talked about drawing, so head position, not leaning back, keeping the head still. We really emphasize not aiming too soon. Aiming is a subconscious step later on, but it's not something you do too early. I think many people develop target panic because they aim too early. Another big part there is the direction of the draw. Just roughly speaking, again, just going to be a bit of a summary. The classical method of push-pull gets you to draw down. That in this system isn't the most biomechanical efficient. People can do it just fine, but it's more prone to injury. Whereas what we've learned is that because you're pushing against the grip in one direction, it makes more sense to pull up from the other. So you draw up to your anchor, not down to your anchor. So that was one big difference, which I'm just summarizing here for my points. And a lot of emphasis on angular motion, angular draw, angular anchor. We talked about loading. So we talked about the amount of weight distribution at each step in the process, from set to setup to loading and to holding. And basically you are gradually increasing the weight on your back until it reaches about 95%. You don't do it from start to finish in one shot. There are multiple steps along the way before you reach full draw and you reach the maximum weight on your back. We talked about anchoring. So again, very tight anchor, slightly to the side, not necessarily center. Center can be very tough to align. Actually, Coach Lee did something with me. He had an experiment. What he made me do was he stared straight at me. He got me to stand up in front of him, put my arms on my side, and he said, focus on my nose. And what he made me do was he pushed my arms down and I had to resist. And it was like a magic trick, one of those illusions that a street magician might do. But by focusing on the nose, I could centralize everything. So I could centralize my nervous system, my hand-eye coordination, and I could resist him pushing down. Whereas when he told me to look to the side, I suddenly lost all energy. I couldn't resist him just flattening down. So that was something we talked about in relation to anchor points. Like if you anchor in the wrong position, you will lose energy, you lose strength. Whereas if you anchor in the right position with the eye above the arrow, that will give you more power. Something like that, very briefly. Let's see. Transfer was a very important mental step. I can't really talk about it here right now, but the emphasis on transferring from external to internal. So understanding that this is a mental process, not just a physical process. And this is where we check things like tension and focus in the right places. There are certain things we want to be tense. There are certain things we don't want to be tense. And we're kind of shifting things away from that. And we talked about how you need to step through each phase. You don't suddenly go from draw to anchor to shoot. There are steps along the way. We talked about holding, and that's something a bit more complicated to talk about. We talked about back tension. I drew scapulae. And we talked about expansion. And we talked about how in the again, the classical push-pull mindset, expansion is continuous, whereas in the Kisik Lee shot cycle, there's much less movement. And we compared side by side different arches he used, push-pull versus the KSL shot cycle. You see that the archers using push-pull tend to have more space to work through. So the arrow will have to travel a bit further to go through a clicker, whereas with the KSL, they tend to be like within 2 millimeters of that clicker point. Breathing was huge. I might talk about breathing in a different video because there are different ways people breathe in archery. People will normally breathe in and hold their breath and then shoot, whereas others breathe in and then breathe out at full draw, inspired by like snipers and shooting sports. But Kisik Lee challenges that. He actually has 2 breathing cycles, a small one and a big one, so that you don't run out of breath and energy. So you want to breathe in to feel strong, but you don't want to lower everything too much. You don't want too high intensity, you don't want too low in intensity. In fact, what the general principle in his shot cycle is that instead of having a peak moment where you are very high intensity, your blood pressure's up, your breathing is held in, and then you release, you generally want to adopt a low intensity, more controlled and low intensity. That's a rough summary of that. Brief talk about aiming. It was actually very, very brief aiming, because aiming is subconscious in this case. Again, very brief on release. These things actually aren't the important things. There are many tips, but the core was more of the mental game rather than release. And most of us could probably release just fine, but we screw it up half the time. We had a really fun experiment where we talked about the bow grip. This is way back, but we grabbed James Gaze's bow, his Hoyt bow, his spare one actually, and we shot without the sling. No, not shot, but we released. We didn't dry fire, but we just let the string go, let the bow tip forward, and I had to catch it. Well, that was terrifying. I was splitting bullets. Like I was so afraid I would drop his bow on the ground. That it was kind of really scary. But Coach Lee got me up there, said, "David, stand here," and then he just dropped the bow, and I caught it. It chose good technique, and then he showed what would happen if you just push forward like I did in the past, and it just stayed in his hand. It just refused to go down. So when I did it, I first time I had a bit of trouble. I kind of like still hang on to it, but after I did correctly with the correct grip and follow through, I quite happily chucked the bow onto the ground. Now he caught it, it's okay, but then I had to like do it for everybody else, so I was the professional catcher. I've mentioned this in the past in my other videos. Coaches can do this. Some people have tried, but it can be very nerve-wracking to have your bow without a sling. Some people do this unintentionally. Release and follow through. The main message there was to finish with control. We examined videos of shot execution where we track the movement of the elbow, especially comparing angular draw versus linear draw or push-pull. And then we talked about intensity, and that was the final part of the shot cycle, was measuring the level of intensity across the board. And again, we're trying to avoid having high intensity on the draw and anchor, and instead we should be lowering that across the board. There are different levels across the cycle, which again we'll go in more detail at a different time perhaps, but the emphasis more on low intensity, controlled intensity, rather than high intensity, then suddenly let go. So that's my summary for today. Tomorrow we're going through coaching principles, and then we have the exam. Oh, sorry, tired, shouldn't do that. Then we have the exam. So that's my summary today. I know these live streams happening quite randomly and to random people, but that is what is happening. So I'll probably check out now. I'm meeting with some people from the Sydney Olympic Park Archers group. A couple of people want to have dinner later on. So I'll head back to the hotel, chill out for a bit, and then we'll hang around with people. So if you're in Sydney right now, then I might be up in SOPA in a few hours. I finish fairly early tomorrow morning, so I might drop by SOPA again, and then I'll be heading up to join ArtMed and Maidan Archery for Saturday and Sunday. So hope you enjoy these reflection vlogs. I'm going to be coming out quite quickly. I will be obviously doing a more collected summary vlog videos at some point when I get back to Melbourne. But it's been a big game changer. Today was probably the most intense day. Not only did we have to learn about the mental game, but we also had to practice combine that with the physical process. And for many of us, it was unlearning old habits and picking up good and better ones. So again, it's been an amazing experience. Really grateful for Coach Lee for inviting me to come out and being part of the archery journey, which is trying to teach and promote. I'm really sold on this, by the way. So it's been a great learning experience. It's been so good to have everyone there as well. So everyone who's been in my class and learned in the same sessions, it's been great to have you along in my journey as well. So hope this helps for those who are watching this, and I'll check in with you guys next time. I doubt I'll be doing a reflection video tomorrow, but I will probably try to do something maybe on Saturday or Sunday for the Maidan side. Anyway, I'm looking at this really bird here. Sorry, before we go, there's this really cool bird. There we go. Is that an ibis? Is that a bin chicken? Or is that something else I'm looking at? Look at that bird there. Look at that. What a beauty. Anyway, guys, yeah, that's probably a sign that I probably want to head off. Sorry, I just realized chat was on. So let's get through chat one more time. It was locked on that top thing about there. Sorry, let's go through number one YouTube archer, yay. Christopher Locke, you're the best archer on YouTube. I don't know about that. Have you ever thought about making your own recurve? No, not really. Primitive archery. What kind of primitive archery? I mean, I shoot like yeah, thumb draw already, but talk about like how primitive we're talking about exactly. Amir, string slaps when shooting your grip is wrong. Yep. By tensing the thumb. No, not like this. I don't mean like this. Tensing the thumb means like you're squeezing it. So the thumb is tense. You're not sticking it outwards. You're squeezing it like this. I think the tip was you should be able to crush a nut between your fingers. So that's what it looks like. It's actually it's not a relaxed hand necessarily. It's actually quite a big squeeze here. So that squeeze is what gets that pad there, and it activates the tense thumb, allows you to activate your muscle here, your tricep. You want that. So that's what I meant there. Let's see. Form checks are going to be brutal, super honest. Yes, I've got a few backlog there. The best thing about this, and look, if you get a chance to learn from a person like Kisik Lee, the best thing is that it gives you the vision. It allows you to see what's happening beneath the water. Okay, we see the ducks or the swans paddling in the lakes. You see how graceful they are, but you don't see what's happening beneath. So having that knowledge and insight and process allows you to see what people are doing. So next time do a form check, will it be brutal? You know, I'm not that hard on online, really. Am I? I'm not that brutal. But I can probably give better sports scientific feedback on what you're doing and why it works. Yep. Hi Outdoors. 11:53 where you are, Outdoors. Great. What are your thoughts on draw high versus low? I've got a video about this already. What was that? Oh, funny bird. High versus low draw. It's not which is better, but it's why it's done. If it's about low draws, it's starting low and then pulling upwards, that's loading onto the wrong muscles. It's really hard to get the right shoulder alignment and the right back tension if you are loading from a low position. The high draw, as long as it's not a sky draw, but as long as it's a high draw, will generally get your shoulders more aligned. So if you're trying to pull from the ground up, that's going to be much harder for you. If you go from high position and then go downwards, then that is generally better. But that said, okay, there's a difference between loading and drawing, and this is more the KSL method. But if you talk about like pulling the string to your anchor point, then low, as long as you don't go too low, as long as you don't go from the ground upwards, that's okay. It's actually natural to draw slightly low, but they have to start from a higher position. It's hard to explain without a bow right now, but think about your direction of force more than high or low. All right, your direction of force should follow your arm through the bow grip, not the arrow. So as long as you're resisting the bow through the bow grip, you should have a much stronger draw. That's my very rough answer. No, it's not a very good one. That's the rough answer there. Do I still have vintage bows? I said that, yeah, I do. They're not my bows. They were given to the club. The club has them, or some at the club has them. They've been restrung, I think. They're still functional. They're not my bows, though. You have feathers? Glue. There are better tutorials. I don't have tutorials available, but there are better tutorials online. But yeah. Sorry, Matthew. I need to put feathers in arrows. What would you recommend? Really, you can't find online? I mean, like my videos, I'm talking about like modern vanes, not feathers. So yeah, I'm not the best person to ask. But yeah, especially like you mentioned, there are tons of fletching videos. Like, how do you not find this on YouTube? It's like not finding any archery resources on YouTube. It's good. It's good. Anyway, I said I was going before. I just finally caught up on chat there. I reckon I'll hang out in the hotel for a bit, chill out for a bit, and then join the Soper fellas later on. So anyway, if you're around Sydney, hopefully I'll see you at some point. Otherwise, I'll be back in Sydney very soon for the Indoor World Series. So stay cool, people. Take care, and I will see you all next time.